Hello everyone, I am Trupti Pandya and today I will be teaching you Element of Account Standard 11 Part 2 Chapter 6 Conventions, Assumptions, Concept and Principles of Accounting. Students, in previous lecture we already completed up to 5 principles. Now today let us start the 6th principle, periodicity concept. This concept is also referred to as accounting period concept by some authors. This concept is related to going concern concept. The going concern concept implies that the business activities will continue indefinitely and or for a very long time in absence of any contrary indication. If one waits till closure of a business, complete picture of a profit or loss can be known only at the time of a liquidation or a closure of a business. But it is not usually possible for businessmen to wait till the closure of a business. Moreover, other stakeholders of the business like inventors, creditors, tax authorities, etc. are generally interested in information of business operations every year. Therefore, the life of the business is divided into specific accounting periods. This is known as accounting period. At the end of each accounting period, financial statements are prepared. Such accounting period is also known as accounting year. Usually, the accounting period is of 12 months. Accounting results are also prepared at the end of every year because the period of 12 months covers the effect of various seasons on the business. Therefore, the accounts are also known as annual accounts. 12 months means annual accounts. Such an accounting year could be a calendar year, a Samvat year, a financial year, cooperative year or any other period, means December to December, March to March, or otherwise if there is a calendar, Gujarati calendar is there, then Kartak to Kartak, otherwise Chaitra to Chaitra, like this. In India, according to income tax law, businessmen assesses are required to finish the details of income or income tax purpose for every year, financial year for period of for 12 months, starting from 1st April and end with 31st March, means next year. All listed companies in India publish interim quarterly financial reports are preparing and interim account which become useful to investors in their investment decisions. In this case, the accounting period is of 3 months. Some enterprises prepare monthly accounts for their internal use, and in that case, accounting period could be a month. There are quarterly are there, but financial statement are prepared for the 12 months. If there is a monthly report is there, quarterly report is there, so their accounting period could be month. Thus, whenever accounts are prepared at an interval of a particular period, such a period is known as an accounting period, and this concept of preparing accounts at a regular interval is known as a periodicity concept. The following are some of the illustrations based on this concept. First, based on periodicity concept or accounting period concept, profit and loss account and balance sheet are prepared at the end of every accounting period. Second, since the life of a business is assumed to be indefinite or for a very long period, such a life is divided into convenient accounting periods to ascertain performance and position of an entity at the end of each such accounting period. This practice is based on periodicity concept. Seventh one, full disclosure concept. This concept is also referred to as a disclosure concept by some authors. According to this concept, all material information should be disclosed in the financial statements to enable the users of the financial statements to take informed economic decisions. It is necessary to disclose all the relevant information in the financial statements. No material information affecting the interest of general investors should remain undisclosed or concealed financial statements should be prepared honestly. According to Section 129, subsection 1 of the Companies Act 2013, the financial statements shall give a true and fair view of the state of affairs of the company or companies, comply with the accounting standards notified under Section 133. So here some accounting section is given as per the Companies Act 2013, and businessmen have to follow this accounting section, and notified under Section 133. Also, it is a accounting standard. Companies have to state their affairs and a true and fair view of their accounting aspects. Shall be in the form of forms as may be provided for different class or classes of companies in Schedule 3. According to General Instruction number 2 of Schedule 3 to Companies Act 2013, the disclosure requirements specified in this schedule are in addition to and not in substitutions of the disclosure requirement specified in the accounting standards prescribed under the Companies Act 2013. Additional disclosures specified in the accounting standards shall be made in the notes to accounts or by way of additional statement unless required to be disclosed on the face of the financial statements. Similarly, all other disclosures as required by the Companies Act shall be made in the notes to accounts in addition to the requirements set out in the schedule. The practice of appending notes or schedules to be financial statement has developed as a result of this principle of a full disclosure. For example, information about contingent liability, market value of certain investments, method of providing depreciation, method of valuation of a stock, and other accounting policies are disclosed in the financial statements with a view or to disclose significant or material information. Good accounting practice demands that all significant information should be disclosed irrespective of legal requirements to do so. Even when there is no legal requirement to disclose a particular information, material or significant information is to be disclosed. The following are some of the illustrations based on this concept. First, change in method of depreciation is a material information as it affects the profit or loss of the enterprise and also affects the book value of a fixed asset shown in the balance sheet. It also indicates the change in policy. Hence, based on full disclosure concept, this should be disclosed in a financial statement along with the impact of such a change. Second, information about the change in method of a stock or inventory valuation and its impact should be disclosed in a financial statements. Now, eighth one, materiality concept. This concept is associated with the principle of full disclosure. According to full disclosure principle, all material information should be disclosed in the financial statements. Materiality depends on the relevance and reliability of information. Information will be considered material only when the same is relevant and significant. According to this concept, any information would be shown in detail in financial statements only when the same is useful to the users of such information. If information is necessary, then only this information is shown in the financial statements. While materiality principle implies that material information should be disclosed, it may also imply that immaterial information may not be disclosed. For example, when small tools like a small hammer, nail, screwdrivers, etc. are used, there is no need to maintain separate accounts for each of such item. Only one account, loose tools. When there is a spare parts is there, hammer is there, nails is there, screwdriver. This small spare part is there. For individual account is not necessary. necessary, and so we maintain not a separate account, but for these all the things we have to maintain only one account, and their head is loose tools would serve the purpose. Similarly, instead of keeping separate account for pencil, eraser, pen, etc., only one account styled as a stationary expense account shall be maintained, because it is not necessary to maintain separate account for small immaterial items. Therefore, there is no need of a separate disclosure or not for such immaterial items in accounts or in financial statements. Materiality also depends on the amount involved in a transaction. For example, purchase of a dustbin for rupees 20 should be considered as an expense instead of considering the same to be fixed asset. On Schedule 3 to Companies Act 2013, General Instructions for Preparation of a Statement of a Profit and Loss states that companies shall disclose by way of notes additional information regarding aggregate expenditure and income on any item of income or expenditure which exceeds 1% of the revenue from operations or rupees 1 lakh, whichever is higher. It is not possible to give definite rule for determining materiality. In each case, it depends upon the quantum of amount, relevance or importance of transactions or information in the business. In terms of materiality concept, an accountant need not attempt to record events so insignificant that the work of recording them is not justified by the usefulness of the results. Whether an event or information or transaction is a material or not also depends upon a judgment and common sense of the accountant. The following are some of the illustrations based on this concept. Instead of charging expenses of only partly used, not paid full cost of not paid is charged as an expense to profit and loss account, even if the part thereof is still unused conceptually. A writing pad is an asset of the entity. Every time the page from such a pad is used, part of the pad is used up, and to the extent the same remains unused, it is an asset. Theoretically, it may be possible to ascertain the number of pages used and the remaining pages at the end of accounting period. But the cost of such an effort would be unwarranted, and no accountant would usually attempt to do this. Instead, usually cost of such writing pads are written off and as a expense either when the same is purchased or when the same is issued for use. Any item of income or expenditure which does not exceed 1% of the revenue from operations or rupees 1 lakh, whichever is higher, is not required to be separately shown in a statement of a profit and loss of a company unless specifically mandated otherwise. Third one, if accounting year ends of 31st March 2016 and telephone bill is received for the period of 2nd March 2016 to 1st April 2016, entire value of this bill may be charged as an expense to profit and loss account for the period ended 31st March 2016 instead of charging expense for one day in the year 2016-17. Now, ninth one, prudence concept. This concept is also referred to as a conservatism concept. By some authors, financial statements are usually prepared on a conservative basis. Window dressing of accounting, showing the performance or position different than the actual one is not permitted. In other words, showing a position better than what it is not good. At the same time, it is also not proper to show performance or a position substantially worse than what it is and thus create a secret reserve. Prudent reporting based on conservatism builds confidence in the result and in the long run best serves the interest of all stakeholders and users of financial statements. This policy of prudent reporting leads to the concept of prudence or conservatism. According to this concept of prudence, an accountant does not take into account anticipated gain or profit but provides for all anticipated losses. Based on this concept, there is a preference for understatement of revenue or asset rather than overstatement when dealing with measurement of uncertainties. At the same time, there is a preference for estimating higher number for liability or expenses when dealing with measurement of uncertainties. This concept is also stated as anticipate no profit but anticipate all losses and provide for them. The two aspects of prudence can be stated as under. First, recognize revenue or gain only when they are reasonably certain. And second one, recognize expense or losses as soon as they are reasonably possible. The following are some of the illustrations based on this concept. First one, closing stock is valued at a cost or a market price, whichever is less. For example, if cost of closing stock of inventory is rupees 20,000 at the end of the year and its market value is rupees 30,000, the closing stock will be valued at rupees 20,000. At the same time, if cost of closing stock of inventory is rupees 20,000 at the end of the year and its market value is rupees 17,000, the closing stock will be valued 17,000. Here anticipated profit of rupees 10,000, 30,000 less 20,000 is not taken into account as the same is not actually realized. However, the anticipated loss of rupees 3,000, 20,000 less 17,000 is taken into account when we value closing stock at rupees 17,000 against its cost 20,000. Second, provision for doubtful debt is made in the account. Third one, provision for discount reserve on debtors is made in the account. Fourth one, provision for discount reserve on creditors is not made in the accounts. Fifth one, contingent liabilities are shown in the balance sheet, whereas contingent assets are not shown therein. Sixth one, provision for a reduction or erosion in value of investment is usually made in the books of account. Seventh one, when goods are supplied on sale or return basis, the revenue is not recognized till the confirmation is received from the buyer for having agreed to purchase the same. Eighth one, in case of long-term contracts, when the work completed is very less or negligible, say less than 25%, the entire profit is reserved for future contingencies and is transferred to work in progress account. In other words, no profit is taken into account or profit is ignored for such long-term contracts when very less or negligible work has been completed. However, if there is any loss, the same will be taken into account. All research and development expenses are usually debited to profit and loss account of the year in which they are incurred, even if the benefit of such expenses is derived in future. 10th one, provision for loss of theft of uninsured stock will be made in the books of account soon after the theft, even if there is a possibility of a recovery of this stock if police catches the thief. 11th one, banks credit interest on doubtful advances to interest suspense account and not to interest account. Recovery of interest on doubtful advances is uncertain and hence based on prudence or conservatism concept. Instead of crediting the same to interest income, it is credited to interest suspense account. So this way, our ninth principle is over. Thank you very much.